Hey, what's going on, guys? We got a special guest here today. We have Stephen Montgomery. He's a college dropout to the founder and CEO of a $100 million company, and it's the fastest growing home service franchises in the nation, Resi Brands. And he's leading a blue collar revolution. On top of that, Stephen's got four children, and he's only 34 years old. Stephen, how are you doing today? And how'd you even get started in business?
Hey man, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm doing good. Excited to chat with you. I got started in business, officially I dropped out of college and started painting when I was 21 years old. And originally just me painting houses by myself, simply because I didn't like working for other people, and I figured I could paint houses and make money myself and kind of take my destiny, so to speak, into my own hands. But I think I had like a entrepreneurial drive ever since I was pretty young. Like I did a paper route when I was 12 years old, stuff like that, that just, I've always wanted to make money, and I've always wanted to, there's something when you make the money yourself and you figure out a way to offer a service and you're in control of your own calendar while doing so. It's, it's addicting and it's fun, and, people should try it.
I completely agree. There's a validation when you go, "Hey, we're not going there today."
Yeah.
Why? That's not, we don't answer that question. We're just not going there today. And
Yeah.
you're able to do that, and because you can deem your own schedule. So,
Yes.
but before that, 21 painting business, like did you ever paint before, or you were just
Yeah.
like, how
Yeah.
did you get started with that?
My dad briefly had a painting company when I was in high school. So like my freshman year of high school, my dad ran a painting company.
Okay.
Um, and so like some of the weekends and summer there, I painted with him. He didn't do it very long. I think by my sophomore year, he had stopped running that painting company and kind of switched gears for his career. So I had painted a little bit when I was in high school. And then when I was in college, my mom was a real estate agent. And so during the college breaks, like so summer break or winter break or whatever, I would paint houses for people that she knew, or real estate agents that she knew that had clients that needed their house painted. And I would make a decent chunk of change, enough that I didn't have to work during the semester. Um, and I think that was in the back of my mind as I'm going through college learning and stuff. And I'm like, do I really need a degree when I can just like paint a house and make a lot more money than a degree is ever going to get me? And so that was always kind of in the back of my head, because I'd paint a house and make a couple grand,
So
and
how long, to
yeah,
just to give the audience some background, like how long would it take you to paint the house? Like how much are the painting supplies? And I know you know this down
yeah,
to the cent now,
yeah.
but like just to give people perspective, because most people are like, it's so hard to do a job, it's so hard to make business, it's so hard to make money. And like I want you to be the one to go, hey, it's actually you can do this.
I mean, this was back in like 2010 before I even officially started my business. I was just doing side jobs. And back then I was making 1,500 to 2,000 bucks a week just painting houses by myself. And I would do that during the breaks and just have a bunch of cash saved up. And like I had, I didn't have to work and I had money all semester.
And yeah, and if you do the math, if anyone does the math there, 1,500, 2,000, that's like 75K to 100K for a college student without any
Yeah.
set experience, without doing more debt. And it's like,
Just
okay, there
painting
are
houses,
other avenues out there.
just painting houses for real estate agents by myself.
Yeah. No, because I think it opens up a lot of eyes because you sit there and go, wait, I didn't know all that. Like, and
Yeah.
then what are you seeing? Because I know you're doing a lot of different brands, but before we get into that, what are you seeing with blue collar? Because like, there's a lot of people moving that direction,
Yeah.
and a lot of people are going, I don't want to do that too, because they're like, I'd rather stand in front of a computer. Like,
Yeah. I mean, okay, so there's two ways to look at this. One is looking at the blue collar work as like the trade itself, like actually doing the painting. And the other part of it is like you can get into sales and even marketing roles within the blue collar world, and there's jobs there too. But I remember, so like that was like 2010. You did the math accurately there, about 75 grand, maybe 100 grand a year. And that was in 2010. Like that's decent money now, but that was really good money in 2010.
yeah. Most parents, most of your probably your parents and your friends' parents weren't like they
Yeah, they
might
were
have been.
making that in 2010. And so, and like all of my friends were like trying, I remember like a lot of my friends were trying to get jobs at coffee shops and as a bartender and stuff. And I'm like, y'all are making $12 an hour, maybe plus tips. And like, just learn a trade. Like you
Yeah.
get so much more money. And I even recruited some of my friends that were working at coffee shops and stuff like that. And I was like, I'll teach you how to paint and I'll pay you, you know, I was paying them $20 an hour. Eventually they're making $30 an hour with me, making a lot more than they were.
At the coffee shop.
Yeah. And it's like, I guess working at a coffee shop's cool, but you work nights, you
Well,
work weekends, you don't
well,
like,
yeah,
and eventually it gets old and boring. Like,
in reality, it's really the value exchange there, which a lot of people don't understand is like, hey, I have this big job.
Mhm.
I'm gonna need other people to help me. I can do a painter. I can be a
Exactly.
painter and make 100 grand, or I could bring my friends in and they can help me start painting, and then we can do triple the houses and make a
Exactly.
everyone can make more
Exactly. And then
money.
that's how I was able to scale. So it was, I was making 75, 100 grand on my own. And then it was like I hired a couple friends and now we're doing, like nearly 3 times the amount of homes. And it's like, yeah, I had more expenses and overhead now. And but I was making a lot more money. And it just grew from there. I just kept adding more and more painters. Eventually I brought on crews. Eventually I did subcontracting as well. And um grew to being one of the bigger painting companies in Austin and Texas area. And um all while having like a lot of balance in my life. Like because I was
Yeah.
self-employed, like there were days where I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go paint in the morning and then I'll leave my crew and I'm gonna go do whatever I want in the afternoon, like go hang out with a wife, like go, to a coffee shop and read, like whatever I wanted to do. I had all this flexibility. And now it's like, I mean, I work all the time just because we're scaling so quickly and it's very busy right now. But um, that's your choice as an entrepreneur. Like you can continue to just keep investing more time and into the company, or you can, whenever you want to put it on cruise control, you can kind of do that too. And
Well,
and
I
that's
think I think that's one of the coolest things about entrepreneurship is that people don't realize is like once you get the systems in place to get the new painters, to get the people to
yeah,
fulfill the painting, and this is any business across all the businesses. This is just we're just focusing on Steven because he's the guest today, and like it's just really important to realize that there's a point when you can go, okay, I'm gonna step back a little bit, continue on all the jobs, and I'm not needed for these because he kind of scaled himself out of there, which
yeah.
is an incredible feeling.
And it's like getting into the trades. Like, look, so like I have painters with like crew leads that are making over 100 grand a year,
Wow.
working for me. So they have 2, 3 guys on their team. They're painting a few houses a week, and the crew lead is making over 100 grand. And then I've got sales guys on my team as well. They're just all they do is sell paint. They just go to homes, do the estimate, sell. Some of them, the top guys, and so like there's like even if you don't start your own business, there's really good money in the trades, and then the same is true for electricians and
Well, we
back and
had
yeah,
yeah, I had an AC
landscaping, like
guy.
yeah,
I had an AC guy who out of Vegas, and he runs one of the biggest AC companies. I forget the actual company name, but he was saying he's like, dude, I would go in there and just sell, and I'd make $1,500, and then we go install the unit. And he's
yeah,
like, that's pretty cool. Like, why would I want to go back to class? Like,
right, exactly. And the other thing too is like I remember when I was bringing on friends who worked at like restaurants or coffee shops and they started painting with me. The thing they all said was my day goes by so much faster. I'm never bored. Like I'm never like watching the clock. I'm never like asking to go home early like I was at a coffee shop because it's just you're standing there half the day and your feet hurt and all that. And then whereas you like get to a physical labor job, your day is done. Like you don't even realize it happened. Like
yeah,
that's you're focused, you're working on a task and like hours go by really quickly. Change it.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's one of the biggest things is like that ability to be present doing something.
Yes.
It gives you a lot of peace of mind. And you listen to all these people talking about, I was listening to Joe Rogan and Elon Musk last night, and they're like, yeah, I really like video games because I have to be present. I really
Yeah.
like archery because I have to be present. You're not going to
Mhm.
paint the house and be like texting on the side. Like, you're painting the
Yeah.
house. You focus on
Yeah.
the activity.
And that's one of the things I miss about painting, to be honest. Like, as you get into business growth, like I feel busy. I love my job, but a lot of my job now is like a lot of meetings, and that can get old after a while. But now it's like I was like, this was like a year ago. My wife was really on my case. She's like, you don't have a lot of balance in your life, and I'm like, I don't. like I don't want to take more time off. I don't want a hobby right now. Like I want to work and hang out with the kids. And so she was like, you're gonna sign up for being a soccer coach and we're gonna put our kid in soccer. And so she really pushed me to be the coach on the team. And it's now like it's exactly what you said is like there's things like that. If you are gonna get a hobby, get something like that that like really allows you to be present and allows you to focus on something for a few hours, right? So I love coaching soccer. It's so much fun. And it's like the whole world doesn't exist when I'm coaching soccer, right? It's just that just this exists. And it's good to have some things like that. And I think that if especially for busy entrepreneurs and if you're an entrepreneur, your mind is racing all the time of like I got to fix this problem, I got to make that customer happy, I need a recruited person to help me with this. I need to sell this much this year. Your just mind is racing, right? And then you're thinking of new ideas while trying to fix old problems. And it's just like, that's how it is for most entrepreneurs. And I think a lot of times people think, so they're like, how am I supposed to find balance? I'm so busy all the time. And I actually think that the way to get balance as an entrepreneur isn't necessarily to take anything away or find more downtime where you do nothing. Cause I don't like doing like nothing. I don't like sitting there. I don't like, if I go to the beach, I sit for an hour and then I go find something to do. I'm restless,
Yeah,
right?
same here.
But for me, finding balance was adding more things, but a different type of thing, right?
Yes, yeah, and it's that
So it's like
intentional action.
an
Yeah.
intentional thing, like I like adding coaching soccer or golfing once a week or something that's like if you add another thing and it needs to be something that does balance you out. It doesn't because I always thought like people are like, oh, you need to find a balance. I'm like, you want me to sit around? I hate sitting around. Like I don't want
Well,
to do nothing.
it's not this or nothing. Yeah, like what I found recently is I started doing Muay Thai. So it's
Yeah,
like
okay.
basic self-defense. And the time the class is it's 6 a.m. to 7 a.m.
Love
Tuesday
it.
and Thursday. It's like what else am I doing at that time? It's like I'm sleeping or I'm going to the class. And it's like I'm someone who's committed and I'm like, if I'm paying for it, I'm gonna go to every class. If I'm in
Yep.
town, like, you know what I mean? And that
Love
was
it.
something that really opened my eyes because you start to realize you're like, wait, I'm a beginner, I don't know what's going on. And you start to learn and you're learning these different muscles. So like you coaching your kids, it's not just coaching your one child, it's like, hey, I'm coaching all these kids and now we're giving them confidence and like
Mhm.
now they're scoring goals and we're excited and we're winning and
Yeah.
it's like that one soccer movie. I don't know if it got that dramatic, but
No, so I've coached both of my boys. I coached my older son in the spring, and then this fall I coached my third born, my second son, and I both of them we won that like out of all the we were like the championship or whatever. Like they're
yeah,
little, it's not a big deal, but it's like
it's
so
a big
both
deal.
times only ever lost one game out of two seasons. So I think I'm a decent coach. Like,
Damn.
if this
Steven
whole
might I mean if Resi
if this
Brands
blue
doesn't
collar
work
thing
out,
doesn't work out, I'll just get into coaching.
it sounds like a solid opportunity. Because I mean, but I bet you it probably implement a lot of the lessons from business into the coaching. Because
It's
it's like,
mindset, dude. Like it's like, and these are like we're talking about pretty young kids. Like one of my kids is 5 and the other one's like 9, right? And so, but it's at that age, like it's not about their skill set yet. It
yeah,
starts to be with the 9-year-olds, but like it's more about their mindset as a because you have at that age it's literally they're going to stare at butterflies, they're going to like forget what they're doing, they're going to forget which way to go as far as like the soccer goal, and it's literally about getting them to like love the game and want to win. And literally like the other coaches and stuff don't like it. I know some of the parents don't like it, but like whenever the ball is like if there's a loose ball or the other team has a ball, like I always yell, get your ball, get your ball. They have your ball. Like, and I want them to understand that's your ball. You have to think of it that way. Like,
yeah.
your ball. Why do they have my ball? Like,
I love that.
and it's like a mindset thing of like that. You need to own it. Like, that's your ball. You go get the ball. Like,
I love that. No, I mean society as a whole is probably like, no, but
yeah,
it's
they're like,
funny.
hey,
That's a
this is
great.
I9. You're a little too intense. And I'm like, well, we're gonna win. So
The funny
they
thing
have
is,
won both times. So
that's awesome. No, that's awesome. The funny thing is, I've actually had Frank Fumi. He actually founded I9 Sports, and he's been on
uh-huh.
the podcast before, and
That's
he shared
awesome.
the story of how it all grew. But it's fascinating just
Yeah.
how everything intertwines and everything relates because that going after your ball, you start to see that with your business. Like, you
Oh
know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, I'm gonna paint this house. Why does the neighbor have a different painter? I have to
Yeah,
go
oh
get
yeah.
that job. Yeah, that's
That's
look at this.
mind that
Look,
that
if you're on
mindset
the
is
yeah,
critical.
yeah,
Critical. Like what you just said there, it's like something I tell people all the time. I'm like, if you see another painter painting a home, you should be upset. Like, why did they hire them? Why am I not paying that house? Like, and it's you need to have that mentality of like that business should have been mine. Like,
yeah.
I should have done something to win it. I should have put myself out there. I should have knocked on that door. I should have ran that advertisement, whatever it was. Like, that's how you have to think about business to win.
Yeah, and when you start to realize like any business you're in, there's 8 billion people on the planet, maybe 9 billion at this point.
Yep.
You got to be reaching out to people because people don't even know who you are half the time. Not saying you, but I'm saying like in general, like to the audience, like people don't know your business exists. Like no matter
Right.
how much you post it, no matter how much you tell people, they have no idea you exist. And there are people sitting there waiting for your problem to be solved. Like I live in a condo and one person writes in the group, they're like, hey, like we're looking for a plumber.
Mhm.
And all the plumbers have been ripping me off. And I'm like, I have the best plumber. This guy never rips me off. He comes to the place, he gives me very fair pricing, and he's the man.
Yep.
And it's just like people don't realize that when you find your guy, you don't care who it is. You are going to
Yeah.
reach out to them again. Like the water heater had a thing today. So I texted the guy. I'm like, hey, let me know. Like, I'm not even going
Mhm.
to ask you the price. Like, is this normal? Is this not? Come fix it,
Yep.
please. Because you
Yes.
start to build a lot of trust with people. And that's super important. So for you, Stephen, when you're going to building that one painter, what made you think about even franchising and then scaling? And what at what point were you like, whoa, like we're getting really big here? Like,
hmm Yeah, so we were growing in Austin rapidly, and I started working with a business coach. He helped me kind of think through a plan to open up in 5 more cities. So I was gonna hire a manager in like DFW, Houston, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, and maybe one more. And so we kind of wrote up that business plan. I had started saving money to do it. I had started even talking to people about, hey, why don't you come work for me? I'll send you out to DFW, like kind of casting vision. I had started writing SOPs and manuals so that we could replicate what we were doing in Austin. And then I started reading about franchising. And so a friend of mine gave me the book, The E-Myth, and that book convinced me that franchising was a better business model because you could empower people to build businesses for themselves while building your own brand is at the same time. And then I researched it and I was like, okay, there's a big competitor in my city. I didn't even know he was a franchise owner. I thought he owned the brand. Like I didn't even know he was part
yeah,
of a national brand. And he's like my biggest competitor, and he was a franchise. And then I started researching them, and I'm like, oh, holy cow, they have locations everywhere. Uh,
yeah,
and it just clicked for me. I'm like, that's what I'm gonna do. And so
yeah.
my goal is to build the biggest painting company in America, and then kind of pave the way so that we can do that multiple times with other home service concepts as well.
I love that. And the biggest thing I got from what you're saying here is that you had someone help you step out of your daily job and your daily actions to think differently about the view of the business. Because when you're
Mhm.
just in it by yourself, it's not like, oh, dude, today's the franchise day. It's like, no, you need outside opinions and outside perspectives to help you want to grow your things. So the fact that he planted that and then you start exploring, then you're like, wait a second, what's going on here? And it gets the motors going a little bit so you can think differently about business as a whole.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. It's yeah, it's exactly what you said. You just get rolling with
Yeah,
it.
well, once the idea is planted, it's like, hey, it's time to go. And then
Yeah.
it's all the execution. And one of the biggest things for you, I know, is big visions.
hmm
So, did you always have a big vision, or has it been kind of a building process with that? Because vision is something that a lot of people are like, dude, I wish I just made 10 grand a month. Like, I just want to quit my job.
Yeah, I think I've always had a little bit of like a dreamer in me. So like
Yes.
I can dream fairly big, but they were just dreams. There was no plan, and I didn't talk about them that much. And I think that was the thing that I learned over the last several years is that and this is something I say a lot, but like a vision unspoken is just as bad as not having one. And what I mean by that is like you cannot just think about things. And I'm
Yes.
and people are like, well, you can't also all be all talk, right? I'm like, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Also, all actions are typically followed. They're typically sorry. You typically talk about something before you do it.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't, no, you can't think about it and then just talk about it, right? So you can't just think about it. You need to talk about it and then you need to do it. But that is the steps. And like we need to
Yes.
respect the steps. You need to think about what you want to do. Then you need to talk about what you want to do. And because when we talk about things, we get feedback. Sometimes we convince ourselves into it more. You think through more issues, more problems that might pop up. And then you set a goal. You decide what you're doing. You declare it, and then you go do it. And a lot of
Yeah.
people are like, here's what's happening is that they're thinking about something and they're like, well, I'll just go do it and see if it works out before I talk about it. Or I don't want to say what my real goal is. But how do you get anybody to help you if they don't know what they're supposed to help you with? How are you going to get anybody to follow you if they don't know where you're going? So there's something in the middle there, and then there's people who talk about things and never do anything. That's really frustrating. But it's like it's as simple as this: think about it, talk about it, decide what you're doing, kind of speak it out, and then build. And so I think a lot of people are afraid to make big claims or set big goals because they think, well, what if I don't achieve it? I'll be embarrassed. Or if I set too big of a goal, people will think I'm too audacious or arrogant. It's like, no, none of that matters. Shut up. Like, just set a goal after thinking
Yes.
about it, after talking about it, set a goal and go do it. And you know what? If you don't hit the goal, so what?
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
That's the
Exactly.
freedom of life. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to change perspective. You're allowed to decide, yeah, I don't want to do it anymore. That's fine. Like,
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean?
one of the biggest things that's helped me and helped different clients that I've worked with is the idea of making a decision, right? You make the decision, but like I was telling you before, like I'm having a wedding
Mm-hmm.
and then a hurricane comes. New
Yep.
information came in. The venue's not all right. I need to change locations. So my point being here is
Perfectly
that like
acceptable.
yeah, absolutely. So the point being here is that it's not, hey, I need to make a decision and then I can never change again. It's, hey, as new information comes in, I'll make a new decision. And
Yeah.
that's why you look at people and they go, hey, they flip-flop a lot. And it's like, no, there's new information. When Steven
That's
started his painting business, he just wanted to paint. And then
mhm.
when you're like, oh, then you start the franchise, like, who do you think you are? I learned about franchising from the E-Myth and the coach, and now I wanted to do more franchising. And then
Yep.
it's like new information, new action. And it's like,
I think that
yeah,
what you just said is huge, and people won't allow themselves to do it. Like they will think that they like, oh, I said it, so I just have to keep going down this path. I'm like, no, the data is showing you need to make a change. Like,
yes,
and it's like
yes,
you're allowed to now. Like, and then it was like you are worried that people will say you're flip-flopping or wishy-washy. Like just recently in the business, we were going to do this really big software switch because when we decided that in the spring, it was the right decision
yeah,
because that's the information we had. Then as we started the transition, the current software we're on fixed everything and came out with all the features we needed. So we're not switching now. And it's like, does it
yeah,
look like I'm flip-flopping? Sure. Or am I just taking new data in and making a
yes,
new decision? And it's like,
yes,
like the only constant in business is change, right? And so you
absolutely.
have to go with that and allow it to be a part of the story. Now, if you're wishy-washy or flip-flopping just simply out of anxiety and fear, then that's something that you need to fix. But if it's because you have new information and you're learning things, and then so you pivot, that's a great thing, and that actually will make you really successful.
100%, 100%. And for you, I know that you did that one painter and you still are
Hmm.
for over 10 years. And
Yeah.
then in the last 2 years, you've started expanding into different vertical, like different home service things.
Yes.
What new information came in that you were like, wait a second, maybe we should do this and this, and then Resi Brands kind of appear.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
So we noticed that many of the things that we did that made us successful in that one painter would work for pretty much all home
Of
services.
course.
And so we thought, it'd be kind of crazy not to try it again. Now, I will say this. There are things that are also very different every time you go into a new trade. And there's going to be curveballs that you're not ready for. And so we are I believe firmly that healthy things grow.
Yes.
Um, and so it is not growth at all costs, but it is prioritize health, and you should grow. And that sometimes means growing into different verticals as well. So for a long time, I would say things like, oh, it can be 10 brands, 1,000 franchisees. And I think that will happen, but that's not my primary goal anymore. My primary goal is to build the greatest home service companies. I don't know what timeline. I don't know exactly how many. I don't know how many franchisees there'll be. I just know that if I pursue greatness and health, that the rest works itself out pretty nicely.
Yeah, I love that portion about health because you sit there in business and people will literally, and this happens to a lot, and I'm kind of bringing this up for the audience to realize is like you might pick a goal and you might feel horrible. It's like, hey, I want to be my best weight ever. I want to be at like 165 pounds, whatever it is. What people have their numbers. So maybe you have to drop 20 pounds. But maybe you start to realize that like, hey, I lost 10 pounds, and then you're like, wow, I didn't reach my goal in my time, and now I feel like a loser. And it's like, wait, there's a healthy amount of time it takes to lose this kind of weight. And then there's a healthy amount of time it takes to grow a business. Because I've
Yes.
had many people on the podcast who did franchising so fast, and they're like, dude, I got kind of scared. Like we had a
Mhm.
lot of debt and it's like a lot of obligations, and you start to realize these things that it's like it's not always best to be the fastest. Like I believe one of the biggest owners of I forget what the restaurant brand, but they ended up having one location for like 10 years. And now
Mhm.
there's like 950 locations because
Yes.
you have to perfect what you're doing slow and steady until then you can make the leap. And yes, it's always scary at all times and it takes a lot of risk, but it's not
So
always, yeah.
John Maxwell does like mentorship with our franchisees, and he said this on a call a little while ago, and it stuck with me. I think it's huge. He goes, people always debate if it's quality or quantity, like which one's more
Yeah.
important. And he goes, it's the wrong question. He goes, focus on quality, and quantity will be demanded of you.
Yes.
Like if what you just said, really focus on making something good, and then people will demand the quantity out of you. and
Yes.
and that's when you know you can rapidly scale. And again, you might even tamper it, right? Like that you might even have to tamper it sometimes and say, look, we have right now, I have more opportunities for new brands that we're turning down.
Of
um
course.
and because we're like, no, we need to focus on what we have right now is the right amount. Like
Yeah.
for this season, and then in future seasons we'll do more acquisitions, more partnerships, whatever. But right now we're turning stuff down because we're just going to focus on the brands we have. and
Yeah.
and and so focus on quality. Quantity will be demanded of you, and you'll have more opportunity than you know what to do with.
I love that. And it takes time. Like
Yeah.
it takes time to build that quality out. Like it's not just, hey, I painted one house, now I'm ready to start franchising. It's like you don't even know how to paint houses. Like it takes a lot of time to develop that quality. So I really appreciate you sharing that because I think that's something super important. Another huge thing about you is that you in our pre-call you talked about it is systems
Hmm.
and never having to do an action again. Or if
Hmm.
it's a repetitive action, how do you limit that? Now,
Yeah.
coming in as, hey, I'm the painter, I'm this one guy, and I'm trying to scale, how did you start to implement systems into your business to where you are today, where it's like, hey, I really just don't want to think like repeat these tasks? Because there's a lot of people who do this stuff. You can literally do this at your home by doing Instacart for every time you go food shopping. The same food comes every single time. Amazon does
Yep.
it with the same ordering. And once you realize that, you're like, oh my God, I never have to food shop again. And the food comes to my door. I saved
Yep.
an hour a week. And now it's one less thing I have to think about. And I can focus on the important stuff like coaching soccer or building a business.
Yeah. So there's three things there. So like uh SOPs, processes, developing all that super critical. And then there's this other piece, which is an SOP is only as good as it's embraced by the team. Meaning that you need the leadership to take the SOP and then get the SOP to become an actual daily action. And so
Yes.
one of my top guys, he says, you have SOPs, but he's like, they need to become behaviors. And once your
Yeah.
SOPs and your processes become normal behaviors, that's when this stuff becomes really actionable and repeatable. Now, so you need to have the process defined. Then you need to continue to improve that process, make it more efficient. You need to have great leadership that can get people inspired to stay on task, to keep moving things forward, to get as much as possible done every single day. But then for the entrepreneur, you are always going to be limited unless you ask yourself the right questions. And so one of the questions you have to ask yourself over and over again, you should ask it almost every single day, is why am I still doing this task? And it's not an arrogant, like it's beneath me. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if it's taking up time, you need to be regularly asking yourself, why am I doing it? How many more times am I going to do it? What do I need to do in order to not have to do it?
Yeah.
And so it's asking yourself that question over and over again. Because like when people are like, "Oh, I'm really busy. I don't have time to," I'm like, I don't. When people say they're really busy, I don't care. I don't care. Like I don't care to hear how busy you are. You're not. It's not impressive to say you're busy. And you could be the busiest person on the planet and get nothing done because you're inefficient, right? And so it's like that's not by itself impressive. Like people
Yeah.
find busy work for themselves to feel valuable, and it's not actually valuable. So
And
what
yeah.
is actually valuable is building something efficiently where other team members can do it so that you can either have more time to do whatever you want, hang out with your kids, go golfing, coach soccer, work out, do Muay Thai, like whatever it is, or start another business, expand it into another city, whatever you choose to do. But that's how you scale. And you can't scale unless you continually ask yourself the question, how many more times am I going to do this? When
Yes.
can I get this off my plate? And then build a process and find a team member and a system for accountability so that somebody else can do it.
Yeah, I love that. And let me see if I'm understanding this correctly. So like the SOP would be like every time we paint a house, we're gonna knock on the four surrounding houses
Yeah.
around it, just being like, hey, we're
Yes.
painting your neighbor's house. If you want to be painted, cool. And then the incentive for the manager would be like, guys, you should do this because the more deals he gets, he's gonna get commissioned on that or get some more compensation. And then the business is just gonna rise through the accountability of Steven coming in going, hey, did we get more deals this week? Why didn't we
Yep.
get deals? And it's kind of,
Exactly.
I just wanted to explain that for the audience so that you can go full circle with this, where it's like, hey, this makes a lot of sense. Like,
Yep.
and at one point, Stephen was the door knocker. At one point, Stephen
Yes.
was the painter. And at one point, Stephen was the checker. Stephen might not even be the checker anymore. Like,
And so for me, like the brushes that I have behind me,
yes,
so represent delegation. So like because there's this like critical moment in my business years ago when I was still often painting with the crew. So I'd have 3, 4 guys painting, they would be behind on a job or whatever, and I would pick up the brush and help them finish it out so we can get to the next job the next day. I remember being at a very specific home. I can remember the color. I can remember the height of the ceilings. I can remember the ladders. I can remember, I can picture it perfectly. My guys are there. It's like 4 or 5 o'clock. I don't remember what time it is. They're wrapping up the living room. It's the last part of the house they're going to paint. And we had another job starting, but it was a few more hours of work that had needed to be done. And it was already like 4 or 5 o'clock. So they're going to have to stay late. So I picked up the brush and I was like, all right, guys, I'll help you out. I'll get this one done. And I literally had a moment in my mind. I'm like, if I do this, I will always do this.
yes,
Right. And so I set the brush down, literally put it down. I said, guys, I'm sorry this job took you longer than you thought. Um, I'm going to trust you guys to wrap it up, make sure it's beautiful. I'll see you at the other house in the morning. And I left and I put the brush down and I never painted again. And I focused solely on project management and sales. Then I grew to 2, 3, 4 crews because I put the brush down. And then
yeah,
I hired a project manager to manage my crews for me, and I solely only focused on sales. We grew even more to like 8 or 9 crews. Then I hired salespeople, and we just continued to grow. And then we franchised, and then now we're all over the country because I kept putting the brush down and saying, I trust somebody else now to do this task. Like I've taught you,
yeah,
I know you're capable. I'm gonna let you do it.
yes.
and and so that is really hard because some of the brushes are really important jobs that you don't want to trust people with. But you will, what the minute you say I'm not putting the brush down is the minute you've decided that your business can't grow.
Yes. Yeah, it's massive because if you didn't realize it, Steven literally had to promote himself. He had to
Mhm.
fire himself from one job, promote himself to a new job where he goes, I don't even know, man. Like, is there really enough work to do project management on one team? Like, that's not like, what are we doing? Like, but you start to realize you're like, I cannot be the bottleneck of this business. And there's too many of us that are the bottleneck of your own businesses because you can't give up control because you're doing a $20 or $30 task when you should be doing looking for 150, $500 tasks, $1,000, $10,000 tasks that are
Yeah.
like, oh, if we hire the right salesperson, that's a $10,000 task. It probably more, 100,000, a million, because you're like, whoa, if he could do it, then he can hire other salespeople and we could crush. And
Mhm.
now our business is making a lot of money. So it all starts by that one moment. So I really appreciate you sharing that vulnerability, being like, I just can't do this, man. I trust you guys and this is important and I get it, but I think you guys can do this, which is huge. And
Yeah.
then for the other big thing for you is I know that you've done something that most people are like, how'd you do that? You
Mhm.
are attracting top talent, whether it's the people you work with, whether it's the Instagram celebrity nature of like Cody Sanchez or any of these other people. Like, how are you attracting these types of people into your business and then kind of into your life in general? Because it's not the easiest thing to do is attracting top talent.
Yeah. I so I maybe have like a unpopular view on this. I just think you don't really focus on it. Like that shouldn't be your focus. Like my focus has never been I'm going to get John Maxwell to like coach my franchisees, or I'm going to get Cody Sanchez to promote our brand, or like eventually become a partner. Didn't honestly spend any time on it. Um,
You
I
want to know? You want to know why you
like
didn't spend any time on it?
why
Because you focus on the quality. Because you
exactly.
focus on quality,
That's
like you were
exactly
talking
it.
about
And
before. You
so
focus on that instead of the quantity.
I And like I know franchisors and I know people in business who are so obsessed with getting good PR. So they're so focused on that. And I'm like, just focus on your craft.
Yes.
Like be the very best there is at a thing and everybody will start watching. Like if like think about it like a street performer. If
Yeah.
they're just okay, everybody walks by.
Yeah.
If somebody's good, everybody stops
I,
and they watch.
dude,
Be good at what you do. Like,
I
and the
vividly
attention will
remember
come.
because there are so many people. I mean, just even that street performer example, there's so many people that you walk by on the street every single day. And I vividly remember this. And this was probably 6, 8 months ago. There was a girl in Mulan, me and Madison, my fiance, we were walking around, and it's probably 9 o'clock, and she is just belting. There is
Mhm.
like there at first we were like the only people sitting there.
Yeah.
Then there's like a whole crowd. And there's
Yes.
people just sitting there watching, just giving her money and just being like, keep going. And you're sitting there and you're like, I remember taking a video and I'm like, this is incredible. Because
Yeah.
people don't realize how good they are at something because they don't, like, you need to practice.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing that people are like, I don't want to do the hard work. I don't
Mhm.
want to practice. I just want to grow. And it's like, you're not good enough to grow. Like,
Yeah.
you're just
And the
straight up
first
not
time that girl probably sang in public, nobody stopped.
100%. But
And then
no
she
one
got better and
cares.
better, and people started to watch. And the thing is, too, like people are like, oh, you just got to find talent. You got to be like, if you're going to be a good CEO, you need to be a recruiter. And it's like, that's all fine and true. But like, if you try to go recruit top talent day one when you're not even good at what you do, no one will want to work for you. Then the top
Yes.
talent's going to look at you like, you don't know what you're doing. I don't want to work for you. You're not a strong
Espe-
player yet. And so it's just like,
es-
go get better. Like, just go get better
yeah.
and watch. Pretty soon, you don't have to do the recruiting because they all will DM you on LinkedIn asking for jobs. Like, because they're like, hey, I've seen what you guys are doing. I really feel like my talent would be best used here.
Yeah.
Like,
But that brings up another super important point that as you're going through that journey, it's good to record it. It's good to share those wins. Like,
yes,
and that's something that's like,
share
I've
the
been
wins.
doing
Be in the public. I'm not saying hide. I'm not saying don't have any good PR. I'm saying don't make that the primary focus. The primary
yeah.
focus is craft. Then show the craft to the world, and if they care and if it's good, you'll get all the attention in the world, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
people have like think about a literal craftsman. There are literal craftsmen. The whoever the people are, whatever century it happened in, somebody built the pyramid, and to this
Yeah.
day. everybody goes and wants to look at it and talks about it and theorizes it and has entire YouTube channels about theories about it. Like
Yeah.
somebody was like, I'm gonna make a triangle. Like,
And it's gonna
and
be
the
epic.
whole world has not shut up about it since.
Yeah.
Like that's what good craftsmen can do. So just be a great craftsman.
Yeah. No, I mean, dude, I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head there because when you start thinking about it, like, pretty much there's the Colosseum, like Machu Picchu, Great Wall
Yes.
of China, like, their PR thing, their John Maxwell is they got deemed one of the seven wonders of the world.
Right.
Like, it's all the
Exactly.
same
But
thing. But I don't think the people building the Great Wall, it's like 1,000 miles. Like,
yeah.
that is a very big task. Or
Yeah.
like these are beautiful things, and it takes them a very long time to do. And they're not thinking, oh man, I got to get my press.
No,
It's
they're just, I'm gonna build something amazing. And sometimes it's like, well, some of those that's like literally it was several generations later that got to finish the building.
a
You know,
hundred. A lot of the
like some
time, the
of
craft was so in depth that it didn't
yeah.
even get the recognition until generation after generation. So, Stephen, I know our time's running low. So, my thing for you is that you are running a massive business and have four children and have a wife and you do all these things. And people say, I can't even find a partner because I can't afford a child. Like, how do you manage all this? Because it doesn't, like, how do you do it?
I don't know. I think you just take steps forward and take
Yeah.
things on. And I think that responsibility is a gift, not a burden. And
Yes.
I feel like a burden sometimes, but it's actually a gift. And um, it will weigh on you, and it might be hard to carry at times, but it's a blessing, man. And having children makes me a better business owner. And my wife is probably to credit with many of my great ideas. Like we're like probably somehow like seeded by her questions or thoughts. Like she's just awesome. She's not in the business at all, but we talk about it and she gives me ideas and stuff. And like at the end of the day, like you just take one step in front of the other. You get better every single day. You will attract team members who will want to work for you and want to do a great job, and they'll help you go a lot farther. And so I think, having a family is amazing. Finding balance is a choice. And so it's like, look, like this weekend we had some problems pop up, and I needed to like do some research. I needed to figure out how to fix it. Right. And so I needed time to read. I needed time to talk to ChatGPT and just work through some of my ideas. Like, and it's like I'm just trying to solve this problem. And it had to happen over the weekend. And so, but it's like also I want to spend time with kids. So like literally I went and laid in the hammock with my 2-year-old while I'm on my phone working. And we just like laid there for an hour. Like it's
Yeah.
just like sometimes it's not about like I have times where it's family time, no phones, right? And there's other times you just have to integrate your life and it just is what it is. And I can't define that for somebody else, right? I don't want every weekend to be a weekend where I have to work, but when I have to work, I still lay in the hammock with my kiddo. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and just
Yeah,
like,
'cause no, because here's the thing, no one really cares. Like, just do
yeah,
your thing and do what you're responsible for and handle that. And like whenever that gets done, that gets done. And I think it's really important that big part you said, responsibility is a gift, not a burden.
yeah,
Because a lot of people sit there and going, I don't know, I don't know. And I love the one step in front of the other because, like I told you before, like I had to change the venue, do all this stuff 3 weeks before the wedding planner's like, Jordan, I don't know how you did that. And I'm like, one step at a time. Because if you
yeah,
overthink it, you're gonna get overwhelmed. And
yes,
like the thing is, like you have a ton of stuff in front of you. Take one step at a time, and you'll get a little bit closer.
yeah.
And if it gets to the point and it's not there, it wasn't that important. Like it just wasn't.
And it's like, look, you don't know what you're going to want or what you're capable of until you start trying stuff. Like, so like people are like, oh, I don't know how many kids I want. I'm like, have one kid and then see how that goes and see if you want to have a
Yes.
second kid. Like,
Well,
and then
because it's
I'm like, my wife and I took it one at a time. And she wanted a big family. I didn't know how many kids I wanted. Like, honestly, I was like, I don't know. I like, let's have a kid. Like, and we had a kid. And then it's
we,
like, I
we
wanted
get
another
more
kid. Like,
we get more information, we'll figure out more decisions.
exactly.
And
And
it
you have to
all
allow
comes down to
yourself that freedom because you need a vision and you need a plan, but you like that will always change. And so,
yes.
for us, we ended up wanting 4 kids. And people are like, well, I want to own a hold co with all these different companies. Like, you might want that, but let's start one business, see how it goes. Do you like it? Do you enjoy it? Do you want to build a team for another one? Cool, do that. Then build it. You
Yeah,
can.
I completely agree. You hear some of these things where people are like, "I'm going to build a business in 10 years," and I'm like, what business? And they're like, oh, this bit, they go super into detail about the whole business. And I'm like, why don't you start today and see if you can get $1 in? They're like, $1? Why would I care about $1? I'm like, because that concept that Steven talked about in the beginning of having pride of like, hey, I did something myself. I'm like, that is the reason that that $1 is super important because then you have actual pride in what you're doing and you're not getting handed this paycheck where you're like, hey, suddenly we made money and I'm not sure how. But
Yeah.
like when you're earning it, you're like, hey, I know exactly where that came from. Like, I understand the exact value that was needed to extract that. So, Stephen, for you, you're doing so much. What does the future look like for you? And where's kind of Resi Brands going? What are you kind of seeing for the future in regards to blue collar and like should people be continuing this way?
So I believe that more and more attention and money is going to go into blue collar services. I think it's a perfect time to invest. We've seen this happen in other industries. So it used to be that every restaurant was a mom and pop shop, you know, Frank's Diner, whatever.
That's an interesting concept. Yeah, no, I mean
And
it's true,
and
and
then
that's a
it
cool
it
concept.
changed. More attention, more money, better skill sets, more efficiency came in, and a lot of that came through franchising. Not all of it, but a lot of it came through franchising, McDonald's and all these brands. And then eventually it wasn't just fast food, it was like Chili's and other types of restaurants are now franchises, Cheesecake Factory, like and then now to where it's like there's probably more restaurants that are chains than there are that aren't. And
Yeah,
and then that happened with gyms like, you know, Anytime Fitness and Orange Theory and all these are Planet Fitness, they're all franchises.
yeah,
And because efficiency and branding and all of that matters a lot. And then it was like more experiential things. Like you had the like Massage Envy and like different
I fly.
nail
Yeah,
shops and iFly and Main Event and these are like, Top Golf is a franchise. Like
yeah.
they all grew, and I believe that we've now in the last decade seen a big growth of that happening in home services, and it's just the start because I think it's only like 4% or so of the home service market is and it might be a little more than that now is franchises. But if it follows the
That's
same trend as restaurants and some of those other things, it may grow up to be around 50% over the coming decades. And it means that PE will not just be interested in buying the franchisor. PE will be looking for the top franchisee in a brand and offering them a deal to buy out their operation. That's already happening. I think so. Money is going to come, attention is going to come, more and more efficiencies will come, better and better tech will come. I think that's the future. So I think there's amazing money to be made in home services and blue collar work. Um, and so for Resi Brands, you know, right now it's 5 brands for 25. So we have our 5 brands, 2 newer brands that are the Action, which is roofing and siding, and then we have Monty's, which is handyman services. Those ones will fully roll out next year, and then we have our 3 additional brands right now. So it'll be 5 for 25 is what I've been saying. That'll be the focus for the whole year. We'll see what happens in 26. But we're excited. We just want to build healthy brands with happy franchisees and things that we're ultimately proud of. And it's gonna be a roller coaster. There's gonna be ups, there's gonna be downs, there's gonna be problems, and that's the journey of business. But at the end of the day, we want to look at it and say, hey, we're really proud of what we built. Um,
yeah.
and 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 because this for me this is a craft.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. And where can people learn more about you, learn more about Resi Brands?
Yeah, just go to resibrands.com. You'll have links to all the socials, and my socials and stuff are there too. So
Okay.
resibrands.com. Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. This has been really interesting thinking about the different perspectives of where brands are going to go, and I hope everyone got a ton of value.